Today, we're talking about noise versus signal, the difference between what distracts us and what actually deepens our life. Because not everything that fills our time is helping us grow. Some things keep us busy, some things keep us numb, some things keep us stuck. Signal is different. Signal brings direction, meaning, conscious engagement. Today, we are talking about the shift from passive escape to intentional living, and how that shift can change the way we experience life from the inside out. My name is Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates, the man, the myth, the legend.
The host with the most?
The host with the most. This is the New Astral Podcast. Hello and welcome to the New Astral Podcast. Today we are diving into noise versus signal, which is something that's starting to become more popular out there. And I think it's an important topic because it's really a great way to gain perspective on the lives we're living and be able to separate things out, because we live in such a busy world today that there is so much that distracts us, so much that takes our attention away from what matters, and in turn, we get lost in it. It becomes the default. We just do what we need to survive.
So what is this? What is the core message of our show today? What do we hope they take away from here?
I want to help people be able to look at their lives, their habits, the systems they live within, and being able to figure out what is distraction, compulsion, or just passive escape, and figure out what it is that they can intentionally shift that attention to that can create growth or just, again, conscious participation in their lives. Signal isn't about getting more done. It's just about living life more intentionally.
Yes. Participating, right?
Yeah.
Being dragged around by everything, everyone, every belief, every religion, every political system. They're all trying to pull us in 1,000 different directions, and you can't be. You just can't be. This show's very right on the nose for the path of Ashla too, because we do want to learn to take responsibility, right, for our life and run it, handle it, right? Leave that for no one else. So this show, I hope by the end of it, you guys will see a shift from this life dominated by the things Michael talked about, all the distractions and the compulsions and things, and into a life shaped by your conscious, choice-driven, intentional effort, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're trying to be co-creators of creation, not just things that live inside of it. We want to help. We want to participate, right?
Yeah, it's shifting from doing the bare minimal to get by to becoming an active participant, not just in your life, but in your destiny.
Yeah.
And creating something more than you have now. You know, it takes me back to that episode we did about self-care isn't always about just the lavish things and going to the spa. Self-care is, learning new skills. It's being active in fitness. It's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone so you can expand your skill set as well as your network.
Yes. Attending to your shadow.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a really powerful show today, because we're all kind of affected by this thing. We all live on the same planet. And if you're listening right now and you're thinking, well, this kind of sounds like a few of the other shows they've done recently, it won't be, I promise you. We're just kind of diving deeper in some of those other shows. We talked about the things that do distract us. This show will be taking us more into integration much sooner, right? This is a very integration heavy show, because insight is okay, but integration is better.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, with this concept, we're able to not just have perception, being able to separate what is it in our life that is not benefiting us and what's good for us. Being able to start taking actionable steps to moving into a life of fulfillment, a life of movement. I've been there where you feel stagnant and it just stacks on itself for years and years, and I think most people are there. We live in a time where there is less personal fulfillment than there ever has been, which is part of my motivation to do this work.
Yeah. Wish it want to do it. All
Yep.
the self-help in the world, man. I mean, I've got a bookcase full of them too, just like you do, Michael. It's like
Yes,
many
sir.
of you do, or a whole tablet full of ebooks, and they're great. But very few of them help us integrate. So, and that's why we do the shows the way we do. We could sit here for hours and hours, talk about all kinds of stuff, even this stuff, right? We try to get to the point where we're trying to help you integrate, because that's where the magic happens. So noise versus signal. What is noise? What do you mean by that?
So noise is a host of things. It can be social media, it can be external distractions such as playing video games, watching TV, binging Netflix. It can be drinking too much or smoking too much pot or whatever it is your vice. I mean, almost anything can become noise if it's not benefiting your life.
And it's not just distraction, right? I mean, it's whatever steals your attention away. And as you said, that could be a host of things. And attention is important. We've talked about that in a few of these shows, where attention and awareness are kind of at the center of our consciousness, or how we regain our consciousness, right? How we regain power. And this noise that Michael's talking about are simply the things that steal your attention, because it removes your awareness. Well, let me put it like this. It fills your awareness, but it disconnects you from the things that actually matter, right?
Perfectly said. Because in the end, I mean, it's when we have so much in our lives to take care of, and some of it is optional. We can put so much effort into certain things. Look at kids being raised nowadays and how many are giving iPhones and iPads. And it's like, hey, go take care of yourself, raise yourself. Signal would be intentionally spending more time with your kids to help them grow and mature into a more successful person. In turn, it could be... Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, it's funny you mentioned tablets, because when I was a kid, and probably even when you were a kid, we're not that far apart in age, the things that we could binge was Saturday morning cartoons, right? Yeah. But those ended, man. If you didn't catch, like, there was only like what, 2 or 3 hours a day, and only on a Saturday. And then later on, when you were a little kid and I was a bigger kid, then it was in the afternoons after school. You get like 2 or 3 hours of cartoons or kid shows or whatever. But even society limited us on what we could be distracted by, right? Now it's just a no holds barred, dude.
Yeah, well, it's so much worse now, because at least then we didn't get to control what shows we watched. It was what was on the TV. We didn't get to pick the episodes. We didn't have the ability to just surf through hundreds of options. I really want to do some psychological research into the demand that having too many options does to our mentality and our ability to choose.
It kills me. It kills me, because I find myself getting lost just scrolling through options. My food will get cold. Everybody will be like in bed asleep, and it's midnight. I'm still like looking for something to eat or something to watch. I'm sure.
And you spend half your time trying to find what you're going to watch just to watch
that stuff is also noise. Doing that is also noise, right?
Yeah.
What kind of cost does noise have?
Oh, your life will vanish before your eyes. I mean, one of the biggest things for me, it's like I look back to, I spent 10 years in this limbo of wanting to do things, and I had moments of growth, moments of trying new things. But it was so much wasted time on doing things that had absolutely no benefit in my life.
Right.
You can probably relate with this. You ever get so into a video game and you play it for like weeks. You get 500 hours in, and you finally beat it or get to that point, you set it down, you turn it off, and you realize nothing in your life changed or benefited from you playing that game.
No, not outside of that moment, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all noise. It's all noise, right? And yeah, noise, this kind of noise has a cost. It does pacify us, right? It does relieve things in the moment, but it disconnects us, which is against the things that we teach. We teach connection, because and it's crazy because we feel engaged, but we are not aligned with the things that are important. Again, our attention is scattered, right? Our awareness is not being used in its most powerful way. We're active, but we're not intentional. We're present, but we're not aware, right? So, and over time, something shifts, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's that comfort zone. It shrinks around us. I think one of the worst things about most things that we consume for noise that no one talks about is how addictive these cycles become.
Yeah.
Doom scrolling. You know, it starts off where you're like, hey, look at it from time to time. And then one day you're really bored and you spend a whole day looking at it. And all of a sudden, you're spending 2-3 days a week doom scrolling until it becomes your favorite pastime after
Right.
work. And there goes your evenings each
But
night.
it doesn't even feel good to do it, though. That's the crazy thing I noticed, right? It feels good to do it for a time, but when it becomes that, like you just said, it becomes part of your everyday thing, it doesn't even start to feel good to do it anymore. It's almost like it's almost like your fingers are just going through motions. How much of that content are you actually even consuming? I don't think very much.
No, I mean,
Because
it's
yeah,
like,
you feel engaged, right? You feel engaged, but you're not aligned with what you're looking at.
yeah, I mean, my feed was full of psychological healing videos. And that was 90% of my feed. And I would see 5 or 10 good bombshell things. I'm like, I need to remember that. That is freaking true. And by the end of the session, it's like, I know there was something important I saw. Okay, whatever.
Man, it's even worse for me, dude. I will see things. Like when I get stuck in those little cycles, I'll see something for like 3 to 5 seconds. My ADHD brain will predict what is going to be said later, and I know where they're going with it. And I'm like, that's a good video, and I'll save it. How many of those videos do you think I've ever actually even gone back to see?
I can relate. I got 5
How many do
folders.
you
I
think?
got money.
I got
healing.
0. I go back 0 times when I'm stuck in those things, right? So yes, even I have to break myself out of the habit, even though I know better. And I do, once I know better, I must do better, right? Something I always preach. But we all get stuck in this stuff. And it does have a cost, right?
Yeah.
It does have a cost because you stop moving toward the things that are actually meaningful to you, and you begin settling for what is just there right now, quickly, right? Immediate. You stop listening and you begin reacting. It makes you a horrible friend. It makes you a horrible partner. It makes you a horrible guide to yourself sometimes if you allow yourself to sit in there because you're not actually listening to people. You're not actually being present. Psychologically, Michael, is this really just all about avoidance? Is this what we would call avoidance?
So if we look at avoidance in the broad spectrum, the answer is yes. Because in the end, it is our passive little escape. It is our way to deal with all these emotions we feel, to help us shove them down, to distract ourselves from having to be with those emotions, having to deal with chaos around us, whether it's kids running around or bills stacking up. It's our way to just dissociate from reality for a little.
Yeah. There's an axiom that fits here very well. We'll see if you agree. Before you can break free of negative or improper influences, you must first recognize them. I think that one fits very well here. Because this is where everything begins for us, right? This stuff doesn't take hold of us because we chose it to. It takes hold because it becomes unseen. It becomes invisible to us. It bleeds into our routines. It hides inside what feels normal, right? And over time, it becomes part of how we start to think and how we respond and how we spend our attention. It's a great deception because it's not obvious to us anymore. It's what goes unexamined, right? These patterns start to form quietly. Distraction literally becomes the habit. Distraction literally becomes that discipline, right? You disciplined yourself to be distracted. Is that very good for you? This axiom says no, and I agree, right? This is why awareness for all of this stuff is essential, because we have to recognize what is influencing us first, right? So that we can start to take steps to get ourselves out of that. As I said earlier, I know when I start to get into these weird spaces, when I just start saving videos, and I'll save 2 or 3 videos and I'll go, hey, stop for a second. What are you doing? You know you're never going to go back to watch those again. Don't do that. Either watch them or go to the next one or just put your damn phone down, right? But because once something is seen, it can't operate in that way anymore if we put that conscious effort into it, right? Once we notice the patterns, the things that trigger us, the ways that our attention is being pulled without our permission. This is important, Michael, without our permission. We must agree and we must give permission, right? We are the captains of our ship. So once we realize things are being stolen from us without our permission, different choice becomes possible. That's what the axiom's telling us. And this is where the work begins, right? Not forcing change, because we don't force anything around here, because we know that that doesn't work very well, right? Not forcing change, but allowing ourselves to see the truth, to see clearly. And then we can begin to stop automatically reacting and practice building a discipline around becoming aware of what's driving these reactions in us. Because you cannot move beyond what you refuse to look at. Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, noise does not take you away all at once. This thing happens gradually, as I said. And it'll take you away until distance from what matters to you starts to feel normal. So that's why this is a problem. That's why noise is a problem.
No, and it's such an important thing to bring up, because you don't realize you're in this hole until you're in its depths, until the light starts sort of going out around you and you realize you're stuck. It's something that will slowly and insidiously weave itself into your daily life. You know, I'll admit I've been guilty where I get on those social media binges where it's like I get so far into it that all of a sudden now I'm at work trying to binge stuff, whether it's during breaks or when I'm in the bathroom. You know, I start doing it when I'm spending quality time with my significant other. The more this thing takes hold, the more we go unaware of what's happening, what's controlling us, the more it can dictate how we live our lives. And I think the next good pivot point would be is looking at this sort of passive escape and how it compares to the active creation of signal, building more meaning in our lives, or more conscious tasks to spend our time on.
Yeah, because active creation is our goal, right? The passive escape, we're using this, think of it as like the use of experience to disconnect. You may not be doing this on purpose, but you're using your experiences to further disconnect yourself away from, again, what matters. Because we'll use this stuff, we'll use consumption of anything, no matter what it is, to move ourselves away from discomfort, responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Things that scare us, things that we're kind of uncertain about, the unknown. That's what passive escape is.
And I think an important note on that is usually when this happens, when it's the strongest, is when life is calling us to stand up and act.
Because that's when we grow the best. There is intelligence behind all of these things. I know people will argue that point with me. Creation did not just happen because something drove that. Something intelligent drove that. And again, I won't get lost in the arguments about what that thing is or who that thing is or whatever, right? But there's clearly some intelligence behind all of this. And it is trying to get your attention.
Yeah. God, I would love to dive into this. This is something I feel we should just spend an episode on and screw what anybody thinks. Because
we will.
There's so much beauty in how much even our psychology is wrapped around patterns. And how these systems will just push us down. And when we don't learn the lesson, the universe comes a knocking. A lesson you taught me that has made me reflect on all of my life is how it starts as a knock at the door, then it's banging on the door, then it's kicking the door down. Then, if you don't listen at that point, here comes a hurricane that destroys everything.
Something is driving all that, right?
Yeah.
Something is, right? And I won't say I'm the guru on the mountain that tells you exactly what it is. Honestly, I don't care. I don't need to know exactly what it is. I already can see what is happening underneath all of creation, right? There are patterns that were put there. I just don't care what was put there. That part doesn't matter as much to me as it does others, right?
Yeah.
So, but active creation is something much different, right? It's participation. What is that?
It's things that matter, learning new skills, taking care of your health, gathering true wisdom. And that doesn't mean reading books and calling it good. It means learning these skills and putting them to work in your life. Yeah. It's your relationships that matter to you, whether it's your family, your friends, your community. It's your work you create, the art you make. It is in all things that is an expansion or extension of ourselves.
Yeah. I said this in the other show we did about self-care and why rest is important and all that stuff. Not all entertainment is noise. I'll just say that, right? Not all, we're not saying that everything is bad noise or dissonance or something that just disrupts you. Here's the important distinction I want you guys to remember. The distinction is not in so much the activity, but our relationship to it, Mike, right? Because when something is used with intention, with our permission, with our agreement, it can restore us, it can inspire us, or even sharpen our awareness. A show like this,
Yeah.
if I be so bold as to say, right? I believe this show does this, and I hope that sometimes this show is entertaining as well. But again, remember, the distinction is not the activity or the thing. It is your relationship to it. So do you choose to consume things that uplift you, that help you grow, that help you get away from these cycles of rumination and things, or do you pick the other stuff, right?
And I think an important thing to say here is it's like not all entertainment is noise, right? It's all about, are you using it compulsively to avoid life?
Yes.
Or is it something that you're enjoying from time to time? You know, going to the movies with your friends, or, you know, you had a long week at work and you want to reward yourself with a night of doing nothing. Like, that's okay. But when it starts becoming repetitive or compulsive, that's when it starts falling into noise.
Yeah. Psychologically, I would say this passive escape is driven by the immediate rewards that we get, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, short-term gratification. You know, it's very easy. Got a credit card. I'm going to buy this thing now instead of save up the money for it.
Yeah. That's one that's gotten me before. I threw all my credit cards away, stopped getting new ones.
Yeah,
Because it's
think
I just magically got $5,000 more.
Yeah, huzzah! And I don't have
No,
to
I
worry
did
about
not.
paying it back, except for $50 a month for the next 10 years.
I'm screwing over a future me, right?
Yeah, he'll figure it out. He'll be
He's got
wiser
it.
than me.
He'll figure it out.
He's going to be making way good money on those 50-cent bumps a year.
Right. Yeah. All of our sponsors for the show, they're paying for my credit card bills, huh?
Yeah.
If only. So axiom of light. So spiritually speaking, and the best way for me to articulate the spiritual side of these conversations is to go to the axioms for me. And the axiom that fits here, because the axioms are very much spiritual, philosophical, right? They kind of help fill in the gaps of the other stuff. But the axiom of light here is let your character and your hard work be your influence. What this axiom is encouraging us to do is to shift from this passive escape mode into active creation. Right? The passive escape consumes, it reacts, it looks for relief and distraction and validation without building anything beneath it. It's all just sand. But influence, real influence, right? Real influence. The influence that we give permission to give, the influence that we intend truly, consciously, is created not through what you consume or even what you say, Michael. It's created through how you live, how you love, how you show up, how you're present in every aspect of your life consistently, right? Through the way your actions reflect your character over time. Active creation is where this starts to take form, because it's not, again, we don't care about being seen. It's not about proving anything to anyone either, right? It's about aligning wholly with our actions and what we think and what we do and what we value, and allowing that alignment to express itself through us, through our work, through our conversations, through everything we do. And over time, this becomes visible. This is what people will see, right? Let your character, let your heart, you and your hard work be your influence, right?
I think what you're saying is so important, because I think this is the trap, at least for me. I know I was in it. It was that wish it, want to do it mentality, right? It's like I just tell myself enough. Like, I know in my heart, these are my values. But when you are not taking actionable steps to embody those values, to embody those desires, and it doesn't mean becoming your ideal self right off the bat, but it means designing your life in a way where you are moving closer to it every day.
Yes.
Even if it's one little step at a time.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because that builds the most powerful, lasting change. Over time, this stuff becomes visible, not through your words, not through the image that you've built, but through the consistency of who you are authentically and how you show up. That's the deeper meaning of this axiom. It's the deeper purpose of our path. Because influence is not something you chase, right? Influence is something that emerges from you when your character and your actions are in alignment with your whole being. Integrity, right? That's what's important here.
I think one important thing to say with this, just on this tangent before we move on, is when we look at this, the short-term gratifications we get when we're following noise. Again, that credit card and getting that thing you wanted really bad, right here, right now. Mm-hmm. What happens when you do save the money to get it? Know what you get at the end of that? Self-trust. Mm-hmm. You get an ability to feel empowered because you know you did that you earned this. It makes the object have that much more importance to you. I mean, I know I've done it where I buy something on credit and then it gets on, I put it aside after a week and it's out of my mind. Things have so much more attachment and value to us when we know we've worked hard for them.
When we work hard for it, yes. Well said. And it is
so
hard work. It is hard work. Don't get it wrong.
It's very hard work.
But most everything that is meaningful is hard, right?
So, why does Signal feel better in the end? Because I think most people are in complete denial of, if I just work hard, is it really going to be that fulfilling, that rewarding? Is it really worth not just getting by like I have been? Because I've been surviving. I know a lot of people listening who are struggling with noise right now. It's not necessarily that they're comfortable with the lives they're living, but it's hard for them to envision life or it being a process that is even sustainable in reaching that future vision of themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess real quick, I guess we have to kind of define what signal is. Is it instinct? Is it intuition? Is it direction from God or a higher power? Or what is signal? What do we mean by that?
Oh, that is a good question. If I were to define signal, you know what? Your favorite word. It is alignment. It is where your actions are aligned with who you're trying to be and the life you're trying to live. And again, signal doesn't have to be being super productive. It doesn't have to be creating elaborate things. It can be as simple as quality time with the people you love. Mm-hmm. It's all about where your values are and what you're who you want to be.
Yeah. Which you guys didn't see this, but we took a quick break from the last segment to this segment. Because Michael's wife snuck in while we were recording, and he paused the show so he can go give her a kiss and say hi. That's signal, and it was beautiful. It was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
You said it perfectly. I had my priorities. Like
he has his priorities in order perfectly. Yeah. Because this show will live on the internets forever, as long as there's an internet around.
Yeah,
we're not around quite so long, so we got to make sure that we signal to our loved ones that we do love them and that we've seen them sneaking around, but we got to say hi to them, especially if we haven't seen them all day. So, yeah, that's perfect.
Exactly.
It feels once we move, and your exercise later today was going to kind of help us do this. But when we compare the two, signal versus noise, signal feels better because it feels like we're going in the right direction. It just feels that way. It's very hard to explain, right? But you feel it. You're like, I am in the flow. I'm in the flow state now, right? Because it'll gather our attention instead of throwing it all over the place. It helps us focus it, right? And this over time, instead of making us more lost, it creates more momentum for us, right?
Yeah. I want you to push back if this is inaccurate because you gave me a thought on this. Could our inner critic be motivated when we're in noise or when we're searching for signal? Our inner critic trying to push us into signal?
I think I think our inner critic is fighting for control over us. That's what I think. I don't think and I won't say our inner critic is good or bad, because it simply exists there to keep us alive, keep us safe, right? It tries to keep us from suffering, but it does a horrible job at that because it just creates suffering. But it doesn't mean to, right? That's not its motivation, but it definitely wants to be in charge, right? So that's a very good question, because And this is why we had to define what a signal is and how we're proposing it today, because lots of things could be signals. Emotions could be signals, right? Emotions do signal us to things, but if our emotions, let's even just talk about the emotions. If our emotions keep us out of whack, disconnected, then yeah, those are signals, but those aren't the kind of signals that tell us that we are in alignment, right? Because
Right.
we're in alignment, we can still feel angry and still be good to go. Because sometimes we need to be angry. Sometimes we do need to cry. Sometimes we do need to be happy and joyous, and right, we need to experience the
Damn it.
the whole spectrum of emotions and still be good emotional managers of ourselves. It's just, again, it's just our relationship to it, right? Like we talked about earlier, right? Are we expressing these emotions because they must be expressed, because we gave permission for them to, because, right, we are agreeing that they are useful in this moment, or are they just taking us for a ride? That ultimately is your sign that this is a signal versus more noise. Because I
So
think,
that's a good way to separate it.
well, yeah, and now that you mention it, the inner critic, if what it's telling you helps you grow, right, then that could be a signal. But if it just goes on and on and on, and you're not moving out of that state, then I think it'd be noise. So in other words, some noise can become signals once you apply effort, conscious effort, and attention and awareness to integrating, aligning with, right? Does that make sense?
It does. I think it's a really good way to view it because all things within us serve a purpose. And I'm not talking about serve a purpose for good. They all
Right.
have their own conflicting needs that they're trying
Duality's
to
a
have
lie,
met.
Michael. Remember, duality's a lie.
Yep.
These things don't exist for good or bad. They just exist, and we must deal with them
Yeah.
because they exist, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can be someone who gets angry all the time. That anger is a protection mechanism. You could be someone who shies away from anything that's outside of your comfort zone. That's you trying to stay safe.
Yeah.
All these things. But again, you getting angry is you drifting from that signal of, hey, I'm angry right now, to following that path, or you shying away from all those difficult conversations and losing touch with people and opportunities. That's you giving into the noise again. Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense.
Or are you presenting anger because you're standing up? You're defending yourself or another person, right? You know how many times a seemingly angry Justin has shut down problems? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of times in my life so far.
Yeah.
Where a strong stance shuts down a lot of problems, right? Anger is very useful for me in that way, because when I allow myself to be angry in that moment, I'm a different Justin. I'm a Justin that gets bigger and scarier. And you're not going to bully this person. You're not going to attack me. You're not going to, whatever the kind of thing is. Right? And
Yeah.
of course, those of us on the path of light use those things for defense, not for aggression. But don't get it messed up. If I'm eating dinner and someone gets in my face, comes up to my table uninvited and gets in my face, or tries to start problems with me or my company, you're going to get an angry Justin. And that's going to be on purpose. 100% control.
Well, but I was about to say there's one key difference here, though. That anger isn't what's in the driver's seat. Yes,
No.
you're embodying. Yes, you're feeling
Yes.
it. Yes, you're allowing it to create that energetic
Yes.
field of "Don't you fuck with me."
Exactly.
But it also is not you punching some guy in the face
No.
or yelling and lashing out.
Right,
And that is
right.
true control. That is true alignment with yourself, even in those
Right.
moments.
Right. So that's why I say duality is a lie, because anger is good and bad, right? It just, again, it's our relationship to these things that make all the difference. Am I being controlled by this anger? Because anger is a very legitimate response to that kind of situation, right? But as you said, is it controlling me, or am I controlling it? Am I using it as a tool for the moment? Or has it just completely taken over the situation where then things will get out of hand, right? And sometimes things do get out of hand anyway, but we can only control our part of it. That's why I say none of these things are good or bad. It's our relationship to them ultimately is what And what's interesting about this is that all the things we talk about seem very complex, but the solutions are always very simple. The further you go on this path, this is something I told you a long time ago. The
Yep,
further
I know where you're going.
and we'll take the path of Ashla specifically because I'm not an expert in any other path. I know lots about lots of things, but I'm an expert in the path of Ashla. The longer you walk the path of Ashla, the more simple life gets, right? It just does. And once you get to a certain point, you look back and go, damn, man, everything seems so complex, but none of it really was. The complexity is within us because we are fragmented, and we're not broken, we're fragmented. We're just, our parts, think of us like a Rubik's Cube, Michael. We just have to, over time, we have to put all the greens on one side, all the yellows and reds and blues and whatever, right? That's what we're trying to work on when we talk about things get simple. But this work that we talk about all the time on these shows, the work must happen, or you can't get to that point where you can see, because your perception is everything. And you will find a more simple perception in the world. 15 years ago, 10 years, even 10 years ago, do you think that I thought duality was a lie? I was wrestling with it. Now I know it's a freaking lie. Now I know it's all bullshit. It's bullshit that we do to ourselves, though, because we are the ones that make our lenses are complicated and complex. The universe operates very, very simply.
Well, and sometimes that complexity saves us from the truth underneath. One of the greatest lessons I've learned since I've been on this journey is how true Occam's razor is. Mm-hmm. Often when we are faced with a dilemma, especially one with ourselves, the answer is often, or more often than not, the easiest, most simple answer. But with that said, that easiest, most simple answer often means it's going to be something extremely difficult. Right. Realizing that I needed to start growing a backbone and standing up for myself. Very simple answer.
Yes.
Putting it into practice took a lot of work.
It doesn't mean that it's not the answer, though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it is the answer. Trying to convince us otherwise. You're just not being nice enough. No, that's not doing it.
Being too nice. And then this segment kind of leads us to one of our favorite axioms. Truth has no regard for popularity.
Yep.
And this axiom kind of talks to why Signal feels different. Because Signal is not driven by what is common or approved or reinforced by any crowd or any person or any people, right? It's shaped by what is true, period. And the truth does not adjust itself to be accepted or liked. It does not become easier because it's ignored, and it doesn't become less real because it's resisted. The truth is what it is, right? And noise is often prevalent and loud because it's shared, right? Most, like the large portions of people share these different beliefs, whether they're true or not. It's shared, it's repeated, it's reinforced, and it's constantly validated just simply by it being exposed, right? Which makes us feel normal because we want to be normal, normal too, right? But familiarity is not the same thing as truth. This is why Signal feels different and it operates different. It doesn't require agreement or recognition. It does not care about those things. It remains what it is, whether it's followed or not. The path of Ashla will be what it is, Michael, whether people like it or not, whether people follow it or not. It is what it is, right? And when we begin to align with these signals, something will shift. We stop looking outward for confirmation because we don't need it. If truth doesn't need it and your heart is aligned with truth, then you don't need it either. You stop measuring your path and where you're going and what you're doing against what is popular. You start to move from something deeper, don't you?
I mean, again, once you are aligning with your values, you realize how much of the life you've been living has been these social masks. These things that you were told you needed to be to fit into society, to fit into these systems. And as you get into this alignment, you become less attached to the perception of the world around you.
Yes.
And as you do that, you begin finding what truly excites you and turns you on in life.
Yeah. Yeah. This axiom really kind of warns us against what's coming next, right? With the cost of following the signal, because the truth will often pull us away from things that we are not comfortable with.
I mean, I'll say, like, Signal is something that I've truly embodied in life. from doing this podcast, working full time. I got an hour commute each way. I'm in school and I'm learning other things on the side. I am, on top of that, maintaining my marriage and relationships effectively. I have gotten myself to a point where I'm 80% noise or 80% signal, 20% noise. But it has cost me a lot. I miss those times where I was able to get lost in comfort. A lot of the old habits that used to make me feel a sense of joy and just peace with the world. Not that this doesn't do that, but it used to help me numb out from everything. You know, mindless fun and being able to just go by the hair of my seat instead of having to live a much more structured life to maintain all this. And it's cost me some relationships.
Yeah. But which one's true? But which one's truth and which one's illusion, right? And once we start down a road where illusion falls away, it's very, very, very difficult to go back because we can't see the illusion anymore, right? So it's not that this following the signal, following the flow, being aligned with everything is less fun. It's just you get to see everything for what it really is. And that doesn't feel good sometimes, right?
Well, you start realizing when you start protecting your peace. You know, me, I was a passive person. That's what I've been working through. So I was overly accommodating. I was even attracted to people who would constantly put a strain on my life and add chaos to it. And it took a lot of work for me to realize how much I don't want that in my life, especially while I'm trying to be successful. Having to create that gap between people who are constantly chasing chaos and destruction versus those who are trying to build and grow and expand.
Yeah. But what you were just describing is a form of grief, is it not?
Yes.
Not because something's wrong, but because something is ending. You can clearly see the end of that you that was there, that got to be comfortable in the illusion and all these things, right? When remember, grief isn't just for dead things, right? We got to remember that. Grief is something that we go through in our system when something is lost or something is ended. When you're down this road, you're outgrowing a way of life that once that was obviously familiar. Even if it was full of illusion and misalignment, you still felt it. You still experienced it, right? But following the signal requires something different, doesn't it? You must erect boundaries. You must choose clarity. And unfortunately, you have to let go of what pulls you away from yourself. That's why there's grief there, Michael, because if you feel like lost before you feel like you're in alignment again.
I know this is one of the areas I'm still struggling with when it comes to my healing process. I know I've gone through such a major transformation since I started this journey, and getting in touch with and truly feeling that grief inside for who I was is something I still struggle with. It's getting in touch with those parts of you that had to change, had to adapt, had to die out, you know, the constant pleasing other people. To realizing I gotta protect my own peace and that I have to put myself first. There's grief there.
There is grief there, and this was a very tough one for us to get through together when we were learning together, right? And I've told you more than once. To walk this path is to endure 1,000 heartbreaks. Your heart will break over and over again. It won't kill you. It will strengthen you. You'll grow. But there is heartache on this path. And there's an axiom that kind of talks about this. Sometimes it is necessary to sacrifice a position, a relationship, or an objective in order to stay on the path of light. This is where the cost of the signal becomes real for us, where the grief happens, where the heartache happens. This path is not maintained by holding on to everything, because we're not meant to hold everything, right? It's maintained through alignment. And alignment requires that what we carry supports where we're going, right? Not where we've been, not where we want to be, where we're going right now in the present. And when something or someone or some place or whatever no longer does support, it creates a lot of tension. And then we have to deal with it. Because we can feel it. When that weight is on us, right, Michael? We can feel it. And it infects everything we do, our decisions and the way we move through life and all this stuff. At that point, the question shouldn't be, what do we want to keep? It becomes, what are we willing to get rid of or to release in order to remain aligned with our true self, right? This kind of brings up the idea of sacrifice. Sacrifice in this sense is not loss for the sake of loss. It is aligning with truth, aligning with clarity, and then allowing that to come out in our action. Because we must recognize that not everything can move forward with us. We must leave things behind. And that hurts a lot, right? We have to sometimes give up titles and positions and things like this. But like I said in the last show, I will never hold on to things that people can give me, because if they give it to me, they can take it away. I need to hold on to things that are real. And if a relationship, for example, that I have multiplied my joy and multiplied my growth and it just multiplied the things in my life. When it stops doing that, when it starts, dividing and dividing and dividing, it's time for me to walk away. And I won't walk away like, this was great. No, it's going to hurt a lot, obviously. But that's why I say this path and this work. And even if you don't follow the path of Ashla, just doing this work, you be ready for 1,000 heartbreaks, because that's just the nature of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things you have to accept and learn to be okay with. It doesn't mean it's going to get easier. It doesn't mean that it's something that you should just try to shove down as you go through this process. But psychologically, growth creates such friction inside of us because our brain loves what's familiar. Even if it's unhealthy, even if it's bad for us, our brains will constantly keep us motivated to stay in the same situations that are familiar, that it's used to. And so when we start getting into signal, when we start living more intentional lives, that discomfort, especially when you're breaking reinforcement loops or tolerating the discomfort of trying to become someone new, it is going to be one of the most difficult things you've ever done. I mean, you think of the first time you ever stood up in public and given a speech. And if you haven't done it before, think how that makes you feel. That feeling inside is how your system will respond when you start introducing the changes you want. And that's not a bad thing, but it's important to be aware of your body, because if you're not aware of your body, then your mind's going to take hold and your body's going to run the show.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
So what's the spiritual perspective on this?
Yeah.
Scratch that. So when it comes to actually building this kind of life we want, building a life that feels like signal, there's some things you can do to start integrating this into your life, to start creating this momentum. The beauty of this is, like I was talking about those 100-hour work weeks for me, it is flow. Once you can get into routine, rhythm, start building these systems that you can maintain and keep up with, it becomes, I'm not going to say effortless, but it becomes sustainable. So I think one of the first important things to acknowledge when we're trying to build this lifestyle is that you're not becoming obsessed with productivity, because I think a lot of people take that avenue when they want to create this change. It's more about becoming just intentional with your energy.
Yeah, we just get addicted to more insight at that point. If we're not careful, we just start gathering more insight, wasting energy on learning more or hearing more or reading more. You have to just be intentional with what you're doing. None of this is measured by how much you do, but by how aligned your actions are with what actually matters to you, right? It has to be things that actually matter to you. You're responsible for this. It's not what matters to me or what matters to your significant others or matters to your parents or whatever. The things that matter to them is what they have to deal with. You must align yourself with what actually matters to you. And that needs to be said, because too often we worry about outside things and outside people. I've told my kids this many times, Michael. They would have to say things that, well, what do you want me to do? I want you to be alive and healthy and happy. That's all I'm asking you to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any things for you to be. You need to be who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care where you live. If those things are good for you, then they're good for me. Because if they increase your joy, then my joy is increased and I'm happy with that. You don't have to do anything, right? That I want you to do or what matters to me. All that matters to me is that you're healthy and happy and loving, right?
Yeah. You know, I think another important thing to bring up with this is temperance. You know,
Mhm.
we want to strive for we want to live a life of fulfillment. We want to be the most authentic to what our passion is and what we're trying to become and build.
Mhm.
But rest can become signal if it restores you. But work can also become noise if when it turns into unconscious grinding that starts wearing you down over time.
Yeah.
You must find balance within yourself. You must find what is true alignment for you. Rest was one of the hardest ones for me. And it's one of the
Mhm.
things that I practice consciously because I am doing so much. I make sure I have my meditation at night. I make sure I get 8 hours of sleep. I make sure that I take any moment I can to just be in the moment instead of trying to plan the next thing. I'm not
Mhm.
perfect at it, but I'm mindful.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's be realistic here. None of this is done through force or the goal of perfection. Presence, repetition, discipline. Repetition, these small, consistent things, which I call discipline. That's to me, that's what discipline is, right? You're going to still have moments of distraction. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I fall into this trap all the damn time. And I know better. I teach better, right? I teach this stuff. I can see it in others, but sometimes I can't see it in myself. That's how elusive it is. But the goal is not to eliminate all noise, Michael. That's not realistic at all.
No,
You said
no,
earlier, 80-20. That's really good.
that's really
That's,
good.
that's
Yeah.
probably doing more better than most of us. I would say from day to day, mine probably is more 30-70, or sometimes 60-40. Depends on what else is happening. Depends on how much sleep I got. Depends on all these things, right? It's not the goal is not to eliminate all these things. Let's be realistic. The goal is to stop living under it unconsciously.
No, that's perfectly said because if you were to try to go into all signal, life would pass by. You would be shooting for a goal that was so unrealistic because by the end of, I don't know by the end of when, but you would burn out slowly but surely. You know, none of us are, scratch that. That didn't come out right. We're not superhuman. We're not, the more we try to fix ourselves into these, I'm either this or that type of situation where I'm either going to be all in or all not. That was one of my biggest issues. Was always just like I'm either going all in or I'm not doing it because I can't step by step things.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. Like there is no perfection in this. There is no shooting for 100%. It's just being able to be intentional with your life to a point where you can feel satisfied with the life you're living, to be expanding in the way you want to expand, and to be nurturing that what's important to you.
Yeah. And there will be 100% days if you really, really, really focus hard and make sure that it does. The reason we say don't shoot for that is because you'll burn out trying, right?
Yeah.
We are still human. We are imperfect beings.
I think the most important thing we can have when we start building this lifestyle we want is awareness. Awareness is the thing that allows us to view things honestly. It allows us to be accountable for the part we play in the lives we lead. If we use awareness and we're able to evaluate these things in our life that are setting us back or taking up too much time, that are distracting us, the list goes on.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing we can do with this awareness is once we realize what's draining us, as well as what restores us, we can be intentional about the integration that follows.
Yeah.
I think of habit stacking. I think this is one thing, if you take away anything about learning how to live a life more signal, habit stacking is the greatest thing you can do to start implementing things to change your life. You know, again, the 100 hours I do, it is not randomized throughout the week. I have a very specific schedule. We record at around 5 o'clock every week when I get off of work. That is consistent. My schoolwork happens primarily on Friday, which is my one day home alone, where I can be fully in the zone without having to worry about anything going on around me. So every Friday is dedicated to that. My work schedule stays consistent. For meditation, I shower 30 minutes before bed. I take 15 minutes to shower, and then that time I have no screens, no distractions, and I can meditate. Figure out where in your routines, in your lifestyle, that you can tweak enough to add something that brings more signal into your life, that can take away from the noise, or that you can just say, I will do this and then I will do my habit, or vice versa. Find a way to start implementing these things in places that are already consistent in your life.
Yeah, well said.
Do you got any final words for our listeners?
Yeah, noise is not something that we just step into. It's something that we drift into slowly and quietly, like we said, until it begins to feel like life. That's the illusion. Signal is not something we find, it's something that we choose little by little, choice by choice, right? And we build discipline in trying to connect and be aligned. Every moment that you're pulled into distraction, every moment you feel the urge to escape, every moment that you recognize that your attention is no longer under your control, you're being given a choice. You could stay where you are, or you could return back to awareness, back to alignment, back to intention, back to what actually matters to you. Again, it's not about perfection. We're going to still have moments of distraction and noise. We'll still fall into these patterns. But the more we apply this discipline, the less we'll sit in those patterns. The difference is we start to see it. We start to feel it. We start to see it and feel it differently. And we can return back to alignment faster. Over time, this really starts to become who we are, right? It just becomes automatic, becomes simple. This is how life changes for us, not through force, not through intensity, but through alignment, through choosing what is real for us and over what is immediate or urgent, falsely urgent, by the way, through participating in our life instead of trying to escape from it all the time. So as you move forward from this episode, pay attention. Notice where your time goes. Notice what holds your attention hostage. Notice what leaves you unfulfilled and empty. But also notices what fills you and moves you forward. That is the precise moment you get to choose. Be intentional. And just at the end of the day, understand this. What you give your energy to, you become. Right? So that's all I have for today.
Oh, that was beautiful. For our exercise this week, today, I guess we got 2 episodes a week, so you'll get another one. Take a piece of paper and just draw a line down the middle. Right on one side noise, on the other side signal. And on each side, you're going to write down what habits for the noise. What habits, what inputs, what relationships and routines leave you scattered, numb, reactive, or disconnected. For the signal side, also, we're going to go with habits, because this is probably the most important part to connect these. Environments, people, and choices that leave you feeling grounded, energized, clear, creative, and just more fully yourself. Now, you're going to take these 2, and you're going to look at try to pick one thing that you can reduce and one thing you can strengthen. Now, again, the advice I gave earlier, habit stack. Figure out where you integrate a small change. Something that you can be consistent with and build on, that you can put into your already going routine. This isn't about changing everything at once. This is about small incremental changes to start building more signal in your life and taking charge. And just ask yourself, will this help me live more consciously this week? Will this help me bring more fulfillment into my life and help me grow the things that matter to me?
The answer
is
yes.
It will?
No, it will.
If you do it, that's the kicker. You got to do it. Follow through.
Yep.
Our 5 affirmations today. I am learning to choose what deepens my life instead of what distracts me from it. My intention is valuable, and I choose where I place it with care. Meaningful effort brings me closer to who I am becoming. I do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. That was a big one for me. Each time I choose signal, I strengthen my awareness, my future, and my peace. And for our journaling prompts today, where in my life am I still using noise to avoid discomfort, stillness, or uncertainty? What forms of signal make me feel the most alive, grounded, and consciously engaged? What has choosing a more meaningful life cost me, but what has it given you in return? Ask yourself, look at your life. If you're someone who feels like you're totally trapped in noise, there's areas in your life where you have intentionality. Are you working a job? Do you have a family that you're a part of? You know, there are areas in your life where you are consistent in showing up for something bigger than yourself and your habits. So reflect on those if it's really hard, you feel like you have to reach. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like this episode, subscribe if you haven't. That's how we get the most traction on these websites. YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place. We're there. Give us a subscribe, give us a like, and share this episode with someone who you think could benefit from it.
And don't forget the greatest website ever built.
What's that website again?
newashland.com.
Greatest website ever.
Nice and easy. Just a few letters. .com.
Again, thank you for making it through this episode and spending this time with us. We hope we were able to leave an impact with you. It's all about taking little steps to change our lives and create not just a more meaningful life for us, but a more meaningful society around us. So thank you for being a part of this journey with us. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.